I always appreciate listening to Jensen Huang talking about Nvidia's business. The company is innovating on such a magnitude that it's the primary cause of the rising effectiveness in the massive artificial intelligence industry. In this video specifically, I'm going to review comments Jensen made about building an AI data center and how Nvidia's success is so much more than just a GPU. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now. So on September 11th, Jensen Huang was attending a conference held by Goldman Sachs, and a Wall Street analyst asked the question to Jensen Huang, and in response to a question talking about competition, the CEO said that the first thing to remember is that AI is not about a chip. It's not just about the GPU. AI is about the infrastructure. There's many other things that surround the GPU. The GPU might be the main event, but there are so many other aspects to the business. It's not just the GPU. He goes on to say that people say words like supercluster, infrastructure, supercomputer for good reason, because it's not a chip. We're building entire data centers. Entire data centers they have components for. So imagine the software that has to go into to run that data center. There isn't a Microsoft Windows to run a data center, right? There isn't that interface. All the software that's inside that computer is completely bespoke. So the person who designs the chip and the company that designs the supercomputer, that supercluster and all of the software that goes into it, it makes sense that it's the same company because they'll be more optimized. They'll be more performance, more energy efficient, more cost effective. And that's where NVIDIA's competitive advantage lies, is in the full system, the full data center. It's so far ahead of rivals in that full data center implementation. That's where its competitive advantage lies. Sure, it has a competitive advantage. It has the better GPU, but it also has all of those other components, the CUDA software, the libraries it has built over decades. All of that goes into NVIDIA's advantage is what's driving that big improvement. That's why NVIDIA has a 80 to 92% estimated market share in this accelerated computing data center space. Goes on to say, we're building an infrastructure. There are 7 different chips. Each chip's rhythm is probably at best 2 years. Every 2 years, a new chip. But now we have 7 different chips and they're all contributing to the performance. And so we could innovate and bring a new AI cluster, a super cluster to the market every year. And that's better than the last generation because we have so many different pieces to work around. So when NVIDIA is talking about bringing new innovation every year, for instance, last year, they had the Hopper infrastructure for accelerated computing. This year, they're going to deliver the Blackwell in the 4th quarter infrastructure. Next year, they've already announced they're going to bring the Rubin infrastructure. So every year, they're going to bring a new infrastructure that's better than the last generation because it's not just the GPU that they're innovating, it's the whole cluster that they're innovating. And so they can provide a cluster that performs so much better compared to the one last year because there's so many different components that they can work with, so many different areas that they can improve, that they can bring in a mass improvement every year. What the CEO is saying, if it was just a chip, if it was just the GPU, then perhaps it would only be every 2 years at best, right? If we really pushed ourselves. But since we're doing the entire cluster, we can do that every year now and provide that kind of step up in improvement that generates so much demand because it's so much better than the previous generation. And it's architecturally compatible. So the software you developed yesterday will run tomorrow. The software you develop today will run across your entire installed base, so we can run incredibly fast. Even a single architecture was different. If even a single point was different, you couldn't do this. So the important thing about this is that it answers some concerns that investors might have on, well, if Nvidia is improving so much so quickly, why wouldn't the business just wait a little bit, before they purchase, the Hopper technology, for instance, right now? Why would a enterprise install a Hopper-based AI infrastructure instead of just waiting a few months to get their hands on the Blackwell-based infrastructure? And here's your answer to that. Because it's all compatible. So you can have your entire installed base, and the performance of your entire installed base you can average it up, right? So you have a certain performance with the Hopper-based clusters right now that you can build that will provide you, 5x return on investment, 2x, between 2 to 5x return on investment, which are incredible return on investment margins for businesses that are deploying these systems. And then next year, when the Blackwell comes out, you can build the new ones with the Blackwell. And so you average up your performance. And then the year after that, when Rubin comes out, you could bring that in there and average up your performance. You don't need to say, well, 2 years ago, we did the Hopper technology. Now we have to tear that all down. And now that we get the Rubin, we got to replace everything with the Rubin technology. It's all compatible. So you can just keep building one on top of the other and continue to improve your entire installed base. And I think that goes a long way to answer the question for investors that I highlighted just a little bit ago. That's the primary reason why businesses are not waiting for that next generation technology. They're not saying, all right, we're not going to buy now. We're going to wait until Blackwell is available, and then we'll order Blackwell. We'll do our whole system with Blackwell, and then that'll be it. We'll be done. That's not how these enterprises, these hyperscalers are doing it. They're upgrading from previous generation, the older technology, which was CPU-based and non-accelerated, which is much lower performance, a higher total cost of ownership. And so they're switching all of that old infrastructure out with the newer infrastructure, which is accelerated computing, which is GPU-based, which they'll start with Hopper, or they'll start with whatever was before, and then they'll upgrade to Blackwell, and then they'll do the next one, and they'll just keep doing these new data centers, and they'll keep upgrading their previous generation data centers with this newer generation's GPU-based data centers. And even if it's Hopper or Blackwell or Rubin, even if it's not the most recent one, still the GPU-based data centers will provide so much improvement from the CPU-based data centers that they are employing now, today. That's such higher cost of ownership that it still makes it a no-brainer decision for these hyperscalers to go ahead and facilitate the upgrading of their older generation infrastructure. Before I let you go, let me tell you about the greatest deal on YouTube. With just a click of a button, you can get free financial analysis from a professor with decades of investing experience. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.